Hey, welcome back to Livin MN Outdoors. I'm Daniel, and thanks for tuning in to this week's fishing report. As I'm sure you noticed, I'm not filming out in the ice castle as it is extremely cold out right now, and I didn't want to have to turn the furnace on and let it warm up before filming. So we're going to film inside today. That leads me to my first point for this week's report. It is going to be dangerously cold out there, especially on Friday. You need to be extremely careful going out. Bring a secondary heat source if you have small kids with. I just ask that you be extremely careful with them. 5 minutes or less and you will experience frostbite on any exposed skin. So just keep that in mind. If you have a diesel truck, think ahead on that. Those are probably going to gel up. Your propane tanks and the regulators, those might freeze up as well. So just be thinking ahead in how you're going to solve those problems. But with that being said, let's dive into this week's fishing report. All right, this week we're going to start up on Leech Lake out of Acorn Hill Resort on Traders Bay. This cold has slowed down the walleye bite some. The best bite is still out at Stony Point or the flooded timber, finding the majority of those walleyes in that 15 to 20 foot of water out at Stony. If you can get on some rocks, that definitely helps the cause. And then best ways to catch those, a small sucker minnow or a golden shiner on a plain red hook, or a glow red or glow pink jigging spoon tipped with a minnow head is producing some fish as well. Now that walleye bite, that is primarily a evening and after dark into the early morning bite, and not a whole lot of walleye action going on throughout the day. Now as far as the perch bite goes, they're catching the majority of the perch in that 16 to 20, maybe even out to that 22 foot of water. They're fishing those mud spots out near Greg's brake line. If you can get set up on the edge of one of those, even better yet, best ways to catch those perch out there, a small red plain hook tipped with a fathead or a rainbow, and then a small tungsten buckshot spoon tipped with a minnow head or some waxies or larva is working for those as well. Now, there are still some perch in shallower over at Tim's Hole, but you're going to have to do a ton of sorting over there. It seems like a lot of those bigger ones are starting to get picked through, but you can still find some in over there. Now, there are a ton of tulipies still out in Traders Bay. A lot of small ones, but some really nice ones as well, especially if you get out a little bit deeper. There tend to be a few more of them big ones. Best ways to catch those is a small tungsten jig tipped with a waxworm or some Euro larva, and they are a ton of fun to catch. Now, one bite that I'm really excited about starting to pick back up, the eel pout bite. They are starting to get some nice eel pout out there. That is basically an after dark bite. Yeah, you can pick some up throughout the day, but it's mainly that after dark bite. Put on a heavy jigging spoon, pound it into the bottom, put on a minnow or two, and more than likely you'll coax one of them big eel pout into biting. Now, Acorn Hill Resort, they do have a full bar and restaurant. On Friday and Saturday, they will be doing a rib special, either a half or a full rack, and then they will have a pulled pork special all weekend long. So if you're up at Acorn Hill Resort, make sure you stop in at the Loaded Loon Bar and Grill and get something to eat and drink. Now, Acorn Hill Resort, they do have cabins. They have sleeper houses, day houses, guided perch trips. I do believe that most of that is full except for a couple of sleeper houses this coming weekend, but they do have some availability later in the season. So make sure you go ahead and give Kyle a call and get something on the books. Now, as far as the ice and snow conditions out on Leech Lake, most areas 20 inches plus of ice. There's no vehicle or wheelhouse restrictions out there. As of right now, there is a little bit of snow that you might be able to bank your house with, but not a lot, and travel is easy going. All right, now moving over to Lake Winnie out of the Pines Resort. I talked to Chad. The walleye bite has slowed down a little bit with these colder temps. They're still picking some up in the bay, and they're locating the majority of them in that 18 to 24 foot of water out on the bigger sand flats. Now, the best ways to catch those walleyes: plain red or white hook. Small sucker minnows are working best, but some golden shiners work as well. And then small jigging spoons in pink are working best, tipped with the head of a fathead, and they're catching some really nice walleyes out there. Now, out on the main lake, the north humps are producing some really nice walleyes as well, a mix of slot fish and eater fish set up on the bottom edge of those humps. The closer to the transition you can get, the better. And then the same thing, a small sucker minnow, golden shiner, or a glow pink spoon tipped with the head of a fathead is working for those. Now, as far as the perch bite goes, they are still picking off some perch in the bay. Some guys, it's not happening real often, but they can still be found in that 8 to 12 foot of water on the deeper weed lines. But that's kind of few and far between on getting on those. And then out on the sand flats in that 15 to 18 foot of water, they're finding some out there as well. Best ways to catch those: small plain red hook with a fathead, or a small jigging spoon tipped with a minnow head or some waxworms. Now, as far as the panfish bite goes, 6 to 9 foot of water, they are on the weed lines and the sand to weed mix. Best ways to catch them: a small tungsten jig with a waxworm. If they're really biting good, you can get them on a small jigging spoon with a minnow head, but primarily that small tungsten jig with a waxworm or some Euro larva is working best. Now, as far as the crappies go, a lot of crappies are being seen in that shallow water along with the bluegills. They are extremely tough to get to bite right now. Doesn't really seem to matter what you put down. They're not really eating. So throw basically whatever you have at them, see if you can get them to commit, but they are extremely finicky as of right now. Now, as far as the pike bite goes, they're still having a ton of luck spearing pike. They're catching them on basically everything and anywhere. So if you want to get in on some pike, Lake Winnie is the place to be. Now, the Pines Resort, they do have cabins. They have day houses, spear houses, live bait, full bar and restaurant. Basically anything you need, they have it up there at the Pines Resort. So if you want to get up to Lake Winnie this coming weekend or in the future, go ahead and call Chad from the Pines Resort. Now, if you are looking to book a sleeper house out on Lake Winnie, Scott from zupsguideservice, he does not have any weekends available left this season. He does have some weekday availability in February. So if you want to get in on some of the walleye and perch action out on Lake Winnie, you better get something on the book soon, because he is almost full for the rest of the season. So if you're looking to get up to Lake Winnie in a sleeper shack, go ahead and call Scott from zupsguideservice. Now, as far as ice conditions out on Lake Winnie, they have 20 plus inches of ice. Nobody's really checking ice depth anymore because the ice is so good out there. They have 20 plus inches of ice. There's no vehicle or wheelhouse restrictions. As far as snow goes, there is enough to bank your houses now, so that is helping, but you have to choose your spot right if you do want to find some of that snow to be able to bank with. All right, moving down to Mille Lacs Lake. I have been out there a couple of times lately, and the perch bite has been decent. You're probably not going to go out there and just set up in the first spot and catch a limit of 10 of them. It's possible, but not probable. The best areas to locate those jumbo perch right now seems to be that 27 to 31 foot of water on the mud. The best ways to catch those jumbo perch out there, from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock in the morning, they do seem to be a little bit more aggressive, and you can pick off a few on jigging spoons. But primarily you are having to use a small tungsten jig tipped with some Euro larva, and the bite is extremely light. So if you have a camera and you can watch the perch suck your jig in, and then set the hook, that is working extremely well, because most of the time you won't even feel when those fish are biting. Now, down on the south end of the lake, I have gotten some reports that they're still catching some nice perch in some of the bays down there. anywhere from that 12 to 18 foot of water. They don't tend to be quite as big as those mudflat fish, but still picking off some nice eater perch down there. Now, as far as the walleye bite goes, you hear a lot of guys talking about catching 40, 50, 60, 70 walleyes in a day out there. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, the majority of those are probably anywhere from 7 to 12 inches. There are some keeper fish being caught, but they are few and far between, primarily that late evening and after dark bite for those. Some being picked up throughout the day out on that deeper water. Best ways to catch them is on a plain hook with a sucker minnow or a golden shiner, or a bigger jigging spoon tipped with a fathead. Now, some of the better areas to target for those walleyes, it's still kind of that 14 to 20 foot of water on rocks, or rock to sand or rock to mud transitions. But it is going to take some time sitting there for some of those nicer fish to come through and getting some of them to bite. As far as the ice and snow conditions out on Mille Lacs Lake, a lot of ice out on Mille Lacs Lake now. I would say probably 18 inches plus. Most places don't have any vehicle or wheelhouse restrictions. You can basically get out to any of the structures you want to get to now. And as far as the snow goes, other than a few small drifts, there's not a lot of snow, and it is pretty slim pickings when it comes to finding snow to bank your house with. All right, well, that's going to do it for this week's fishing report. Really appreciate you guys tuning in. If you make it out fishing, remember, be careful in this cold weather. Bring a secondary heat source. Lend a helping hand if somebody else is in trouble. Don't crowd your neighbor. Be respectful of other ice fishermen. Absolutely do not leave your trash out on the ice. And don't forget to get on out there and get living.